Hi, I'm Nicholas Robinson, and I'm the Director for Government Relations for Zoom here in Latin America. I'm here today to share with you some best tips, practices, and general security tips for Zoom that will be very useful in your day-to-day use of the platform. Many of you will have gotten to know Zoom quite a lot over the last year and a half or 2 years, but few of you will know that Zoom is actually over 10 years old. We have a long history of helping large companies and organizations communicate effortlessly, securely, and intuitively among themselves. We're based in San Jose, California, and are a US-listed company on the New York Stock Exchange. We believe firmly that the future of work, of medicine, of education, and indeed governments and congresses like yourselves is hybrid, not just for environmental reasons, a reduction of CO2, of cars and planes, also from a work-life balance perspective, enabling more people to spend time at home and less time at work unless it's a productive face-to-face encounter. And for financial reasons, with less people having to travel, for instance, long distances in cars or airplanes to attend public hearings, for example. Today, I'm going to talk about some few tips that might be useful in your experience at Zoom. And I'll start with security. In April of 2020, we initiated a 90-day plan to stop every development on our platform that was not related precisely to security. Due to that plan, today we have an established CISO council with some of the leading experts in technology security working for Zoom. We also have end-to-end encryption enabled on our platform, not just on paid accounts, but also on free accounts, which you can activate in your settings. As a result of the 90-day plan, we also now have a security button that's embedded within the Zoom client, the Zoom app, which you'll be using on your computer or your phone. And it enables all hosts or co-hosts to control whether participants can open their webcams, they can open their microphones, they can use the chat, or rename themselves during the meeting. All hosts or co-hosts have the power to control these things during the meeting, in addition to turning on a waiting room if you forgot to do it before the session. You even have a red button called Suspend Participant Activities, also within the security button on the bottom left of your screen, which enables you to instantly turn off everybody's video and audio if necessary, until you can remove an unwanted participant and then continue your meeting. These are just some of the security options we offer. Another one that's quite common among policy circles and congresses, and I find people are quite interested in, is our watermark. As you know, on Zoom, you can record both on your computer or on the Zoom cloud. But some people ask me, what happens with so many people working at home if someone decides to record a session, the audio or the video on their phone or another kind of recording device, without permission, of course? Zoom is the only solution that allows you to discover who recorded a session without permission and shared it without permission, because we have a watermark inbuilt into our audio and video that enables you or the host of the meeting to discover who had recorded that audio. If you're interested, please look into our Zoom watermark function online. I'd like to also share some interesting settings which you may or may not be aware of. I'm now sharing part of my screen and not the entire screen, which is also an interesting privacy strategy. In the settings, which everybody can access on their computer, you'll be able to see that you can choose skin tone, which applies to all of the reactions you use at Zoom. If you go down to the video option, I always recommend turning on the HD video that you can see here on my screen, in addition to the adjust for low light option. See how my face changes as the Zoom tool is asked to add additional brightness to my face, which is especially useful for contexts where you have low light, like a room at night or just a low lit space. Moving down to audio, I also like to recommend the use of the suppress background noise function. This is an excellent tool that uses AI technology to bring down the noise of external things, whether they're dogs barking, people typing, a computer fan, or a nearby building site or bus that's driving across the street. If you put the suppressed background noise on low and I start clapping, you'll see that this is obviously interrupting my speech. If, on the other hand, you set it to high, I'll do exactly the same thing, start clapping, but you'll notice that soon afterwards, the Zoom tool will identify that as noise and you'll only be hearing my voice. This tool, therefore, will help you send a much more professional and serious image on your Zoom participations. I'd like to talk a little bit about Zoom backgrounds and filters, because I find that they can be an excellent way to protect your privacy, i.e. whatever is going on behind you, while at the same time representing, for instance, your district or your state or your country. I've seen a lot of people use different images, for instance, images of cities they represent, or images of particular communities, or even particular infrastructure projects that legislators and their staffers have supported over the years. Think of creative ways that you can use backgrounds in order to engage with your audience and create a more dynamic and participative context for your meeting or your webinar. As we scroll further down, I'd like to highlight the feedback space, where we always welcome at Zoom that you send us your ideas, your comments, and suggestions, because all of those are looked at carefully and considered when we look at new products or improving the products that we already have. And finally, on the bottom, you have accessibility. For those people, whether they are legislators, staffers, or citizens participating in an open event who have a difficulty seeing smaller text, you're able to change the font size, as you can see here, or the chat display size, which I like to do and set to 150%. These are just some of the tools that we have at Zoom to make your experience the best one possible, to enable you to set up and configure your experience the best way you like. But there are some additional tools I'd recommend. We now use Zoom apps, for example, which enables you to integrate lots of different experiences for those of you who enjoy, for example, using a countdown. Today, I have a countdown to limit the amount of minutes I speak, or you enjoy using external services, whether it's Miro, Dropbox, Google Docs, whatever your service you have, there's probably a Zoom app for it. And it will allow you to use that app within the Zoom experience without leaving the call. We also offer the option to include an interpreter in the call on a separate audio channel, very similar to the way that interpreters and translators work in a real-life conference, where I will speak, for instance, in English, and you will be able to listen to the audio in a separate channel through an interpreter. In fact, in the future, we will be able to support translation in real time using AI, using artificial intelligence, that will enable you to speak to someone in a different country when you don't speak their language and have real-time interpretation and translation. Stay tuned in 2022. Another interesting tool, which we recommend, and I see a lot of interest in legislative houses and also in the policy spaces, is broadcasting. You can hold a meeting on Zoom and broadcast it to a channel on YouTube or to a page on Facebook, among several other services. To do that, you can just access the broadcast version, the broadcast button on your Zoom client, or search for it online. Some participants may want to access your call using only audio via their Zoom app or using the phone. There may be situations where they will be able to dial in using a phone, but not access the app. Make sure that your settings are set up in a way that allow those people to access, but also have the right security settings that are compatible or similar or even the same to those that you would have for a normal meeting. Use of passwords, for example, is a good idea. And finally, think about chat. As I mentioned earlier, you can turn chat on or off during the meeting, but it's always a good idea to have some internal guidelines or some internal rules about how the chat should be used during sessions, both by legislators, staffers, or maybe even the public, when we're talking about an open meeting, like a meeting with citizens or a public hearing with the participation of external audiences. Our vision is a future where we continue to deliver happiness to our users and where people are able to communicate securely, effortlessly, and an intuitive way, always using a secure platform that we make sure is always as good as possible and that your experience is as good as possible. Always receiving your feedback and always making sure that we're here to improve the service and to add specific features whenever they're needed and suggested. It's been a pleasure to be here with you. I'm Nicholas Robinson, Director of Government Relations for Zoom in Latin America. And I'm happy that you're using Zoom and will continue to use it in the hybrid future. We'll be here with you for that ride.